I'm Vicki Hogarth, and welcome to Southwest Magazine. I'm joined today by Courtney Hammond and Tony LePage of Broadway by the Sea, coming back to KIRA Amphitheatre on August 26th. Thank you both for being here today.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So last year, 2 sold-out shows.
Yeah.
Yep.
How did Broadway by the Sea, though, come to be, and this being the 2nd annual? Can you tell us the backstory?
Yeah. So first of all, we were overwhelmed by the response to it. It was just, this was truly a, if you build it, they will come, I guess.
Yeah.
And people showed up, and it was electric and amazing. So we had been speaking to some friends of ours, Tony and Lori Mays, and they have a house down here, and they spend a lot of time down in St. Andrews, and we were kind of just chatting with them, you know, having a glass of wine, and they said, you know, there's this amphitheater that you should probably see, you know. Lucinda Flamer, who is an incredible human, she's built this, you know, amphitheater up behind the Kingsbury Gardens. You should check it out. And we thought, okay, sure. And they said, so they set it up, and we went and met someone there, and they kind of showed us around the grounds, and then our jaws were on the floor. We
couldn't believe it.
I didn't know. I had no idea it was there, and I think a lot of people have said that they didn't realize that's something that, you know, significant is there. So the second we saw it, they said we said we have to do something here, and I think one of us just said Broadway by the Sea, and that was it. In that moment, we just were inspired by the grounds and by seeing the location and the feeling you get when you walk into Kingsbury is just it's magic the second you walk in. So that just began just like that.
Yeah, and that would have been, I think, summer of 2021.
Yeah,
so then we planned for a year before we did the first show last summer.
And for people who don't know your backstory, can you tell us about your time on Broadway and then what ultimately brought you back to New Brunswick?
Sure.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Fredericton, New Brunswick. I haven't lived here since 1997, I think. I went away and started doing shows all over the world and all kinds of things. And I was in the Toronto production of Rock of Ages. And the show was just amazing. It changed my life. And when our show closed in Toronto, I got a call from my agent 2 days later, the magic phone call that, hey, the Broadway production wants to bring you down. And so I went down for the Broadway production of Rock of Ages, and I did that for almost 5 years. And then after that, there was some space in between, auditioned for stuff, and then Come From Away came along. So that was how I got to Broadway. And then coming back to New Brunswick is just something that the two of us have been talking about for a couple of years now, just maybe, you know, kind of changing our lives up a little bit in a different pace, and being close to family, and bringing our experiences in New York back and giving back to the place that gave me my start. So
yeah, and I was a performer for years. I did cruise ships, regional theater tours, and about now 6 or 7 years ago, I emailed a casting director friend of mine and said, I want to learn what you do. I felt like I wanted to be on the other side of the table. So I started kind of apprenticing, really, and I did that for 6 months, and then became a casting assistant and then associate, and so I've been a casting director for the last 5 years in New York City, casting national tours. I had a Broadway show that I worked on, lots of regional theater, international theater, things like that. So for me, coming from the States, coming here during COVID, I fell in love with East Coast Canada. I did, and you know, Tony's hometown and St. Andrews, and so it was a no-brainer to me when we were discussing where are we going to go after New York, and it was like, well, we're going to Canada. Let's go. So here we are. Yeah.
And now she's a permanent resident.
Now I'm a permanent resident. I am.
Officially got the papers. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
And we love that, obviously, what your mission is to bring Broadway to New Brunswickers. Not everyone can get to New York and have the chance to experience Broadway there. For people who missed it last year because it was sold out, can you tell us a little bit about what Broadway by the Sea entails? What's involved in the show?
Yeah. So it's essentially a musical review concert where we do huge hits, Broadway tunes. We cast an ensemble of local actors, right? So we had about 11 last year, 11 or 12, all local New Brunswickers, some students that we've worked with. And we had a band, all local musicians, so everyone was local, and we brought in 3 guest artists plus Tony to be the, you know, Broadway guest artists that were featured. And it was wild. I mean, we rehearsed the guest artists in New York City. We have a musical director there we work with, and then we rehearsed our band and our ensemble here, and kind of put everyone together the week of the show, and ran it a couple times and did it. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So it's a review. Yeah. So songs from different musicals. We had one of our performers, her name's Christine Dwyer. She played Elphaba on Broadway, and so she sang a song from Wicked, and so it was it was just so much fun to put the show together because we just went, what's awesome? Yeah. And then let's do that one. What would be great, and let's do that one. So it was really fun to put it together.
And to that point, once we knew who our guest stars were going to be, we were kind of able to tailor the show to them, right? So once we knew we had an Elphaba from Wicked, we said, well, we have to do a song from Wicked, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly. And
it's great
Matt DeAngelis was in Once, and so we did a couple songs from Once, and it was so nice, and it was just, and they're a married couple too, so they sang together. It was just we had so much fun, and we're just so glad that so many people got to see it, and we'll get to see a different version this year.
Now, how do you know what songs you've picked already for this year, or are you still in the audition process?
Yeah, we're pretty close. Yeah, we're pretty close now. It's always about sort of finding the exact right fit and the exact right combination and in what order everything goes. But we have some pretty great ideas for stuff for this year.
And we also have to orchestrate them. Oh, right? Yeah. So we have our musical director who is incredible, Mike Doherty. We've worked with him for years, really, on all of our projects. And he has to orchestrate all these songs. So it's it's a very collaborative effort.
Have there been any Zoom rehearsals?
We actually, yes, we had Zoom rehearsals with our ensemble, because last year we were in New York when the ensemble was rehearsing here. Yeah. So we would Zoom and watch the rehearsals and talk to them via Zoom. Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy. You sound great.
You sound great.
Yeah.
Now, beyond just bringing Broadway shows to New Brunswick, you've also brought the opportunity for young talent here to be mentored by you as well. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works? I know there are workshops here in St. Andrews, but you also do a lot of work in Fredericton as well.
Yeah, it's one of our, it's like I said, the thing we want to do is be able to bring what we've experienced here and to help people. I mean, look, you don't have to get to Broadway to be successful, in our opinion. But if people want to improve and they want to get to whatever level they want to get, we want to be able to be there to help them get there. And so, we've been working alongside TNB. We worked at with St. Thomas University there to create these masterclass workshops where we can help people find their way acting through a song, or helping people to audition if they want to go to audition for theater schools, or if they want to audition for a show, from start to finish. What is it like when you walk into the room and that type of stuff that you don't really, it's not you don't think about it, but you just don't. I never really had that when I was kind of coming up, and so we want to be able to help people in that way.
Yeah, you're known on the internet, Tony, as New Brunswick's first Broadway star.
This is true. Yes, that's right. Hopefully there'll be a whole lot more.
What would you both say when you give advice to younger people, especially coming up, who might say being from New Brunswick as a barrier? Sometimes there's that lack of confidence that comes from being in a place where you don't have the same theater opportunities as you would in New York if you grew up there. What's some of the key points that you try to instill in your students who you mentor?
Take risks. Take risks. I think that's the biggest thing I see with students. To your point, like you said, if there's a lack of confidence or fear or nerves, which we all have, and they never go away, right? And that's something we try and teach our students too. You're always going to be nervous. We still get nervous, but you have to learn how to channel that into energy, and and then what do you do with that energy, and where do you put it into the song? Where do you put it in the scene? And as far as if students feel like there's limitations, I think our goal is to tell them there isn't. There truly isn't, especially now, because everything's digital and everything's on camera, and you can send self-tapes from anywhere, right? So many auditions now, especially after COVID, have gone via video, right? People send self-tapes for things. So that's another thing we want to instill in people is like, hey, start checking the trades, go check online, everything's online. Get your social media presence the way you want it if you're going to be a performer, and get your website up and running. So for me, I like to teach kind of more the business side of things, because it is a business, right? Show business. And also, we work on, as you said, performance, acting through song, building your rep, but getting that confidence up, because really being prepared is what makes you confident, right? And so we just try and prepare them as best possible.
Exactly. Yeah.
And as a casting director, what are the key elements of your job when you're casting someone? What do you look for when you're putting a person to a character?
Yeah, it's really, so essentially I work for the producers, right? So whoever's producing the show, the director, whoever's putting on the production. So the first step is meeting with them and getting their artistic vision. What do you see in this world? Who do you see in this world? Who are some examples of who you would see? And then my job is really to start collecting submissions from actors and come up with ideas on my own and put together lists and present that to the team. Collecting tapes, I watch a lot of self-tapes, hundreds of self-tapes. And, you know, really just getting down to the essence of the show, right? We're always trying to serve the piece, trying to serve the story. So sometimes, and very often, we get surprised. People show up in my inbox, I go, oh, not what I think the director expected, but I'm going to put this person forward because I think there's something there. And sometimes they're the ones that get cast, and that's the most exciting. But I wouldn't say there's one specific thing because every project's different, every character's so different. But I think being prepared for me is really it should be showing up, being prepared, taking risks. Don't have to be perfect, truly. Like, I don't care if you walk in and sing a bum note. I'd rather you try and go for it, and if you mess up, who cares? Do it again. We'll start over, you know?
I always try to tell people to telling students how you have to be able to do it when not everything's perfect too, right? You know, so you're going to be in a weird situation. Auditioning is weird. It's a strange thing. You're auditioning for Shrek. You're playing an ogre in the middle of a forest, and you have to walk into a white walled room with, you know, LED, you know, with the fluorescent lights and these people sitting behind a desk, and you just sort of go, hi. You're like, it's super weird.
It is super weird.
And if you're doing it on a video, especially now with the video stuff, when you're doing that, that's super strange because you're probably just like somebody took a picture off the wall and you're in your kitchen, you know, trying to audition for so you're picturing this huge musical, but you have to somehow elicit that from yourself and show them that, you know, you can fit into that kind of world with none of the other things around you. No costumes, no sets, no anything. So you got to be able to show up when not everything's all in the perfect place too.
And you make a really interesting point, which is that videos change the game. And have you noticed that as a casting director that there's more of an array of people from all over?
Yes, which is great. That part I love about it because people that you wouldn't normally see, especially if they're not in New York, when we were there, we were getting tapes from everywhere. I mean, I feel like Puerto Rico I got tapes from, and so we were able to kind of expand our search, which is wonderful. But it's a lot more work for the casting director, I'll say that. But yeah, it's changed the game quite a bit. So I would say young actors should be prepared to understand how to make a self-tape. And it doesn't have to be fancy equipment. I mean, iPhones, cell phones, you can take really good videos on your phone as long as you have front lighting and a, you know, decent, clean background. Make sure the sound is good, you're good. Doesn't have to be professionally filmed.
And I'm sure anyone at home who watches shows like American Idol or The Voice sees that so much does come in that way. And on that note, you have someone from The Voice coming to St. Andrews for a risk you did take, putting together Sweet Dreams, Air Supply, the musical, which I'm very, very excited for. But on top of that, you told me just before we started taping that you have a voice star coming up to be a part of this. Can you tell us more? And this is June 10th.
June 10th.
June 10th.
At the KIRA Amphitheatre.
Sweet Dreams, the Air Supply musical at KIRA. And we are beyond excited to announce that Omar Cardona, who was a finalist on The Voice last year's season of NBC's The Voice, is going to be coming up and playing one of the lead roles. And he is next level amazing.
His voice is crazy.
We'll
talk about the show a little bit. It's it's a modern. You tell it, Tony.
Sweet Dreams. Yes, I did. Yes, so it is the musical I co-wrote with my with a guy I did Rock of Ages with on Broadway, Justin Sargent. So he's a Broadway actor as well, and just an amazing guy. And then Graham Russell of Air Supply. We've been working all together to create this show over the past few years, and so it is a modern day retelling of Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream, told to the music of Air Supply. It's set in present day in New York City, and all of the characters are modern day versions of, you know, the characters from Midsummer Night's Dream. So instead of a king and a queen, it's, you know, the CEO of a company and his wife, and like so it's all that kind of stuff. So that's that's in a nutshell, that's Sweet Dreams, and it's got 16 of Air Supply's greatest hits, All Out of Love, Making Love Out of Nothing at All, Every Woman in the World.
All of them.
It's just,
it's really fun. It's funny. It's heartfelt. It's a sweet show. It's really about finding love within yourself for other people.
Loving yourself so that you can be loved, and empowering yourself to live an authentic life, and that type of thing is sort of and Graham from Air Supply has just been so supportive and so amazing. I mean, he gives the entire Air Supply catalog of songs. It is just, you talk about a gold mine for a writer. You know, it's one thing to be writing a show. I've written, you know, plays and screenplays and things like this, where you go, the lovers run off into the night, fueled by their whatever rage or something, and then even the nights are better. Even the nights are better. And you're just like, oh, that is a freebie. Now the audience just gets to sit back and just be like, ooh.
Yeah, so we're super excited
Another
for
good
Amphitheatre, because hearing these Air Supply songs in an amphitheater is going to be next level. I'm so excited.
It's going to be incredible.
Band's wicked.
Yes, they don't write songs like that anymore. Every Air Supply song is a Broadway musical waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Epic songs.
So I would say to anybody, get your tickets, because it's coming, and it's going to be really, really good. And if you like Air Supply, and if you like Shakespeare,
and the voice,
and
if you like Omar Cardona, which you do, I promise you, because he's so good, come and check it out.
Team John Legend, I remember that season.
Yes.
Team Legend, yeah. So yeah.
Wow.
Very
well, can you talk a little bit too about, and I'm sure some of these risks you take came with, in part, the pandemic. Broadway had to become super creative.
Oh yeah.
What was it like at first when everything shut down?
That was a crazy day.
Really surreal.
That was a crazy day. I remember, so I was doing Come From Away on Broadway at that time, and I remember the last couple of shows were a little light. We were sold out pretty much every single show. That was incredibly popular.
Yep.
And we noticed, we were kind of going, maybe there's something to this, because there was some talk around about this thing, and it really just started coming to the States. But then on the Thursday the 12th, yes.
March 12th.
Yeah.
I was in an audition that morning.
That's right.
I had auditions for a project I was working on, and I remember the studios were eerily quiet. There was nobody there.
Yeah.
And I had this audition, and I went back to the office, and another casting director I worked with kind of looked at me and goes, maybe go home today. I think you work from home today. And I went, okay.
Sure.
So I called him and I said, I'm coming home. Do you want to have lunch?
Perfect.
So we had lunch.
And because we had been working opposite schedules, so we were like, this is great. And Thursdays I only have a night show, so this is perfect. We were having lunch, and then we kind of looked at each other and thought, should we go get like supplies?
Some pasta or something,
we don't want to be the idiots that didn't go do it, you know what I mean? So we're like, okay. And then we got into the grocery store and we thought,
no cell service in there.
Yeah, and so we're looking around and we're saying, this is pretty shopped out. You know, so something's happening. So then, because there was no cell service, as soon as we got out of the grocery store, bling, 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 my phone goes crazy on my Come From Away chat. Does anybody see this? And it was a Playbill article saying that Broadway was shut down for a month.
So we found out when everyone found out.
Yeah.
Via the news.
And then somebody said, "Can check with the producers," and they said, "Yep, this is true."
Yep, come,
they said
come
we were
get
going to try to tell you before, and they just said, "Don't come in tonight."
Right.
That was it.
Yeah.
And for a month.
So
and the longest shutdown in Broadway history was, I think, 9/11, and it was 2 or 3 days. That was it.
Yep.
A month was completely unheard of. The show must go on mentality is very alive in theater, and producers and everyone, nobody wants to close a show ever. I mean, you've had people walk out with a script in their hand, and if somebody gets sick, they'll just do it so that the show can keep going on. So this was completely unprecedented and very strange.
And everything just started shutting down, I remember, and your show shut down. We didn't know how long it would be closed, and then all the shows I had just cast started getting canceled. I mean, everything from January to March just started
within
getting
that
canceled.
first week. We went to the airport the next day and flew down to Orlando because we said, well, we have a month. And so we went down, and I remember we were sitting there looking up, those little 4-screen TV things and just watching. It was Madison Square Garden's closed, the Masters is rescheduled to November, something, and then Broadway was shut down, and we were just looking at the screens going, what is happening?
Yeah.
So we took the month, that turned into 3, that turned into 6, then turned into a year, and it was a year and a half before we went back.
And I think that was there was many, many horrible parts of COVID, of course, but not knowing when we'd go back, because we were never sure. They kept saying next month, okay, another month, okay, another month, and we just kept waiting, saying, when do we get to go back to work? So we came here for the summer. We said, well, we might as well go see family while we can. So we came up to Canada that summer. And there was an artist in residence program at the Fredericton Playhouse that we were granted a residency.
Intermission series,
So we were able to actually workshop Sweet Dreams the musical. And at the time, I think because the Maritimes were doing actually okay at that point,
really well,
they decided to open it up. We could sell tickets. So we were actually able to do this. So we did a show during COVID here in Canada, which is is actually unheard of, considering everything that was going on. But
you had to be. The rules were you had to be 6 feet apart if you were speaking and 12 feet apart if you were singing. So we had microphones stationed at certain like different areas of the stage, and it was always funny because two lovers are talking to one another about something and they're falling in love from about 6 feet away talking, and then when the music starts, they just had to walk away from one another and then sing a love song to one another 12 feet apart. So, but honestly, it was so helpful for us with the show's development, and we learned so much about, because we got to hear audience reaction to it. And I remember thinking to myself at one point, as sitting in there as the writer, and somebody would say something and the audience laughed, and I went, it was funny. I was like, I thought that was funny, but I guess it is. People actually think it's funny. So that's good. And so it was really helpful.
We got to be creative in a time that a lot of artists weren't able to. But what's interesting about that time, I think back to it, so many artists were finding other ways, right? They were making podcasts, they were making videos. So many of our friends started doing really creative things. So it was an interesting time because we were all forced to really evaluate our jobs and our careers in the arts and say, okay, well, what do we want to do? What makes us happy? So in that sense, a lot of creativity came out of that time.
A lot,
which I'm grateful for.
And bringing Broadway to people who can't get to Broadway. Is that when Apple TV, The Come From Away, was born too? Yeah,
so we were, the show closed, and I think it was like 8 or 9 months in or something like that, that the producers then said, because Hamilton had filmed the show, and it was starting to be, hey, maybe this is a neat idea. Maybe doing a live capture of the stage show is a good idea. So they had been in talks about doing it, and then we all got on a Zoom. It was a full company Zoom with the producers and everything. We just want to tell you we're doing it, and it's going to be for 3 weeks, and we're going to sequester in a hotel in New York. We all had to go. I got COVID tested every day when we were on set, every single day.
Everybody did, right?
Everybody, the crew and everyone. The crew had to be on a different floor from us, and we couldn't use the same elevators. And we were in this hotel, and I remember I got in there, I got COVID tested, went into my room, and couldn't leave the room for 3 days. That was it, just in the room. They would just drop food off, and then you just stayed there. And then eventually, once everybody was kind of clear, we would go in and we'd test, and then there was an area upstairs. So anyway, it was this crazy experience, but also completely magical because we got to walk. We were the first show to walk back into the theater, and they opened the doors, and everything was kind of the way we left it, and it was so strange. It was this weird, like, things on the calendar, people's calendars in their rooms, a glass of water that was there from when we started, because it was just. Everything was just there.
Just shut down.
So we just felt frozen in time, and then we got to look at each other again and go, oh my God. Like, sorry, I get emotional when I think about it. Because it was incredible, and it was just to be able to see my friends again and to be able to do this like incredible show. This show is so magical and has that show changed my life in a lot of really amazing ways. And so there we were up on the stage again, all of a sudden doing it. And then for one of the days, they got an audience of, I think it was 150 or 200 people, all spaced out to watch it for audience reaction stuff. And Courtney got to be in the audience.
I got to see it. So it was really the first Broadway show to come back and have an audience. And it was, amazing. I mean, the feeling in that audience was magic. It was wild.
Yeah, we couldn't believe it. I mean, we were walking into the theater, there was a lineup of people outside the theater, and they were applauding.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
And that exists on Apple TV for people to see.
Forever. Yes,
still on Apple TV.
Yep.
Does it feel poetic for you that Come From Away is really one of these defining Broadway shows of your life, but in a way your life has mirrored that?
Definitely.
You've come home?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I say it all the time. I feel like I'm living Come From Away because I absolutely have come from away here, and I felt in the show it's all about humanity, right, and kindness, and being a good person, and opening your door to people. And I felt that during COVID when we came here. I went, oh my God, I'm living Come From Away right now. This is crazy.
That's right.
So I think that's when I fell in love with East Coast Canada, and when I think we decided we want to make our life here, and we want to do what we're doing now, which is whatever we can to bring the arts here, brought people up from New York, working with locals, trying to get some theater rocking here and in Fredericton, and
Well, we are so happy that you did, and
Thanks.
I'm so happy to have had you here today. I hope you come back again, closer to Broadway by the Sea, but I hope everyone at home checks out the Air Supply, the musical, Sweet Dreams, June 10th, and Broadway by the Sea, 2 shows, August 26th.
August 26th,
Yep. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us. This is great.
My guests today have been Courtney Hammond and Tony LePage of Broadway by the Sea and Air Supply, the musical. I'm Vicki Hogarth. Thank you for watching Southwest Magazine.
Southwest Magazine is a news and public affairs production of CHCO Television.